Debra Burlingame is our guest. She's the sister of Charles Chick Burlingame III, the pilot of the hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 that was flown into the Pentagon on 9/11 by al-Qaeda terrorists. He was the inspiration for blogger Robert Sherbert to start Take Back the Memorial, a nonprofit group that opposed the International Freedom Center, that's the 9/11 mosque, being located at the World Trade Center site. Debra Burlingame met with the president today and expressed her displeasure over Attorney General Eric Holder bringing charges against the CIA officers who waterboarded or used advanced interrogation techniques against the terrorists that now led to the capture of Osama bin Laden. Debra, is it your theory, is it your contention that we would not have Osama bin Laden had they not waterboarded Khalid Sheikh Mohammed?
Yes, it's not only my contention, it's the contention of a man by the name of Jose Rodriguez, who was from 2002 to 2005, he was in charge of the Counterterrorism Center. He was in charge of the case officers that were getting this information, and he's gone public to say that there's no question about it, that these are the interrogations that with these detainees that led to the identification, the nom de guerre of the couriers that began the thread unraveling that led to they ultimately led to the location where bin Laden is. Because bin Laden has stopped using cell phones and satellite phones. He started using years ago human couriers. And that's when they located these guys, they zeroed in on that building. And they've been watching that building for years because it had no cell or it had no internet type activity out of it or phone activity. So that was very suspicious. And you've seen it. But the point is, they can't fudge too far on this. They're trying to because they know that they have people who, with clearances who were there when these interrogations happened and this information came out. So they can't finesse it too hard. And so at this point, you can, like I said, you can argue about whether or not these types of interrogation techniques are torture or whether they're not. But the point is, these guys were doing what they were asked, and they were cleared by two investigations by the DOJ. What Eric Holder did was unsatisfied with investigation 1. He launched investigation 2. That cleared them. And then because that wasn't the result he wanted, he's the one who appointed a special prosecutor. And now with the killing of bin Laden and the fact that there is a connection between these interrogations and getting him, it's very unlikely that these guys will be prosecuted. But it hangs over their heads. They have to hire attorneys. These guys are heroes. What they did for us was every bit as heroic as what the Navy SEALs did.
Have you talked to the CIA officers?
No one knows who they are. I mean, these are covert. These are people who are not supposed to be known, but we know they exist. And the fact is, wherever they are in America, living with their families. Daniel Henninger of the Wall Street Journal did a great piece today where he said, please, let these people come in from the cold. Imagine what they think watching the world celebrate the fruits of their labor, and they can't join in on the celebration.
Are they still under investigation?
Yes, by a special prosecutor.
Wow.
And that's what I was saying to the president. Can't you have any influence at all to get the Holder to stand down on this? And look, this goes to the heart of the whole torture debate that's made Obama's liberal left base crazy. They wanted to prosecute Dick Cheney and President Bush.
Sure.
They wanted to bring criminal charges, war crimes against our own president. That's the loony left that is, I don't want to say Obama is enthralled to them. Sometimes I think he's one of them, but he certainly has to worry about them, going off because his base has shrunk so badly.
Deborah, let me ask you. Debra Burlingame is our guest. Her brother, Chick, was the pilot of the plane that was hijacked, American Airlines Flight 77, and flown into the Pentagon. Let me talk to you as a family member of a victim for a moment. Obviously,
Sure.
you were at the gathering in that capacity today. 116 months later, how important was the capture of Osama bin Laden to your process of healing? Did it matter to you?
Not very. I think my process of healing is with a capital T, time. And it's very difficult to heal over time when you've got 9/11 in your face every day. Because look, this isn't this wasn't a murderer who went out and killed a bunch of people and then he was executed. This is a terrorist organization, global, with affiliates all over the world, and now with a magazine, brazenly with a magazine, we're trying to recruit Americans. This is an existential threat that continues. It's a generational fight. And so the people who killed my brother want to kill my family, as far as I'm concerned. They want to kill my neighbors. They want to bring this country down. And they're a huge threat and a very dangerous threat. So it's very hard to kind of move on and, quote, heal. Most families I know who I've spoken to, and I've spoken to many since Sunday, almost to a person, they broke down and cried. And I did, and my two brothers did, because it's the realization that even though this takedown was huge, very, very big, it's not going to bring Chick back, and it brought back all the memories that we've. It's been 9.5 years, and they were so fresh and raw again.
Deborah, obviously you're a board member of the World Trade Center Memorial Foundation. How often do you communicate with other family members of other victims, and in what capacity? Do you have a blast list? Do y'all have a website? Do you gather and meet? How often do y'all communicate?
All of the above. All of the above. We do all of that.
How many people are we talking about gathering out of the 3,000 victims?
Oh, we don't actually physically get in a room because we're all over the place. We conference, and it depends on what's going on. To be honest with you, I mean, there were a lot of conferences going on when we were fighting the federal court issue, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed being tried like an American citizen in federal court. I mean, that was a 2-year fight, and we won that one. And that was we were actually going to Washington. We were in Washington in January, meeting with members of Congress. I had a curbside debate with Eric Holder on the street about that. We ran into him in the middle of this,
You're his worst nightmare. A former flight attendant, a former lawyer, a housewife, and a sister of a victim who is not only well-spoken and thoughtful, but unafraid of anything. I mean, this is the worst nightmare for these folks.